or chai just gets me excited. Or maybe you're just over-caffeinated. It's a possibility. Hi, my name is Nema, and in today's video we're going to talk about chai, and I'm going to show you one of my favorite versions of chai. But if you're interested in learning how to make masala chai, I have a really spicy but good recipe in the description box below. Is it a description box? I don't know, I like calling it a description box. Anyway, it's in the description below. Let's get started. So I believe I've mentioned this before, but it'll probably come up a lot, especially for those dishes that I will share with you that have Indian origin. But the Indians were also colonized by the British, and so that's important to note because that leads to these sort of synergies in our cuisines. So in the late 1800s, the British brought over indentured workers from India to help build the Kenya-Uganda Railroad. And then obviously some of them stayed. But I think it's important to note that there's long before the British arrived, there'd been Indian influence in a lot of the cuisines of Kenya because there'd been trade along the Indian Ocean coast, right? Along the Indian Ocean coast. And so this helps to explain not just the Indian influence, but a lot of other influences, which we'll definitely get into in more videos. How exciting! If you get nothing else from this video, okay, take this, just this one thing with you. Please, 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 stop saying chai tea. Okay. Chai is a word for tea in a lot of languages, including Kiswahili. And so when you're saying chai tea, you're being redundant. Just say chai or say tea, but never chai tea, please. Have I said please enough times? Please, please. Thank you. So the previous video which I'd recorded, I realized there was something I should explain in more detail. And it might be a bit confusing, but stick with me. So in Kenya, if you order chai, because we've learned the Swahili word for tea is chai, sometimes you'll get just plain black tea, or sometimes you'll get black tea mixed in with milk. So usually if you want a spiced chai, you have to order a masala chai. Usually chai masala contains cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, cloves, and black pepper. Oh, and sometimes nutmeg as well. And everyone has different variations of chai masalas. There's so many, they're so varied, have lots of histories, personal, cultural, otherwise. And so none of which are right or wrong. I just want you to know that. So whatever version you make, I feel like I should throw a disclaimer in here. I don't know your auntie, I don't know your grandma. So I'm not going to make it the way they make it, because this is how I learned to make it in my family. Okay? So everyone can go on happily making their own versions of chai, and hopefully that can lead us to world peace. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay. My favorite version includes two things: cardamom and fresh ginger root. And I found that in the US, organic ginger root is a lot more potent, so that's what I use. And also in this case, you actually don't have to worry about peeling the ginger root. You just have to worry that, you don't have to worry at all. You just have to make sure that your ginger root is washed. You know, you can use one of those, what are they called? Those vegetable brushes. You know those brushes you use to wash vegetables? Oh my gosh. So my version requires a 1-to-1 ratio of water to milk, a few crushed cardamom pods, and a piece of freshly grated ginger root. Now, with the ginger root, you want to grate it because you want to release those volatile oils, and those oils that are part of the chemical makeup of ginger and other spices actually dissolve really well in fats. So that's why you want whole milk. And later on, I'll show you an example of how to make chai with non-dairy milk. So we're going to begin by combining the spices with water, and the milk comes later, because if you add the milk too soon, all those volatile oils and the spices are going to curdle your milk, especially those in the fresh ginger root. It is Disgusting. Anyway, so you're going to bring your spices and water to a gentle boil. And then you're going to add the tea leaves. And this is a part that's really important, is you do not want to cook your tea leaves longer than 30 seconds. Basically what you're trying to do is to color the water, right? And if you let your tea leaves boil for too long, because everything's already come to a gentle boil anyway, and so if you let your tea leaves cook for too long, it's going to alter the flavor of your chai, rendering it a bit bitter. So after you've added your tea leaves, you've steeped it quite briefly, under 30 seconds or no more than 30 seconds, depending on what kind of tea you're using, you're going to add your milk. And you add your milk and you stir it, and then you just let that also come to a gentle boil as well. And you'll know it's done. This is a part where I want you to focus not on time, but on doneness, because I can tell you 5 minutes, but there's so many factors that could affect how your chai cooks. How fast or slow, So I would say pay attention to doneness. And doneness in this case is when your chai, if you're using regular milk, begins to bubble over. This is the part where you want to take your saucepan off the stove. You want to do it quickly, swiftly, shall I say, yet safely. So after you've removed your chai from the stove, you're going to get your sieve and put it over a cup, sieve your chai, and then you're going to add a sweetener of your choice. I recommend using something neutral so that it doesn't completely alter the flavor of your chai. So let's address some of the questions you'd asked. Someone asked, should the spices be toasted ahead of time or just before making the chai? And I think this one boils down to preference, honestly. One of the ways I'm going to answer this question is I'm going to give you a tip that will have the aunties like, I can't even say it with a straight face. I call this one chai in a hurry. I don't know why that's so funny. Okay, focus. So anyway, for my chai in a hurry, basically it requires a high-speed blender. I put in whole cardamom pods and slices of ginger, blend that with the quantity of water. It could be a cup if I'm just trying to make 2 cups of chai, I adjust it for how much chai I'm making, if that makes sense. And then you still have to continue the rest of the process, which is bring to a gentle boil, add your tea leaves, your milk, and let that bubble over. So it's not really quite chai in a hurry, but you save a step or two if you're in a hurry. Ooh, that's not the answer you expected, I bet. Where to buy tea and spices. So I will say I have found that if you have access to an Indian or Pakistani grocery store or a Middle Eastern grocery store, typically they stock nice selections of tea and everything you can possibly need to make chai. So that's a good place to look. But also don't discount your local supermarket. What is the most dominant spice in your version of chai? We've already covered this one. You've seen cardamom and ginger for life. Like, I don't think I mentioned this, but I like a lot of my tea is spicy. Like if my chest is not on fire, I don't want it. So maybe if you're watching this and you don't like those things to the excess I do, just, tone it down for yourself. This is a really good question and one I had anticipated. Can you use non-dairy milks? Yes. But you'll have to approach it slightly differently because obviously the makeup and boiling temperatures of nut milks will differ from regular milk. And so depending on what you have, let's see how I can address this. My advice is either you can boil your spices in just a little bit of water, add the milk, add your tea leaves at the end, and then just bring that to a gentle boil, because it sort of ties everything in together, right? Because if you let non-dairy, I know this from experience, if you let it boil too long, you know, trying to get that bubbling over the same way as regular milk, it's going to start to separate. And I think that has a lot to do with what kind of nut milks you're using. Another tip that I'd give you, or that I can suggest, that has worked really well for me is to infuse your choice of milk overnight. Not with the ginger, but like say you have cloves, black pepper and all of that, cardamom in my case, you can just infuse your nut milks, put them in the fridge overnight, and continue the process where you just add either fresh ginger to it while you make it, add your tea leaves, and then, you know, let it just all gentle boil, tie it all in together. Now, as far as like type of milk, I personally like oat milk if I have to use a non-dairy milk, and I'm going to be really honest, it took some getting used to. Okay, so I think I can't recommend one brand over the other. I think it's just whatever you prefer. And also the other thing I wanted to add about non-dairy milks is that some of them already come slightly sweetened, so you don't need to add sweetener unless you want to. That like in this case, I just added a bit just to show you the process, but I don't think you need to. I feel I've talked a lot. Thank you for staying if you stayed this far. So let's go over the Kiswahili words for today's episode. The Kiswahili words are maziwa, which is milk, majani, which are tea leaves, kichungi, which is a sieve. Maziwa, milk, majani, tea leaves, kichungi, sieve. Thank you for watching, and until next time, kwaheri ya kuonana.